Okay, we're live.
I'm not concerned about his vote.
Good evening. I will call to order the April 18th meeting of the Columbia Borough Planning Commission. Could we please stand for a moment of silence? Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I would just like to state that Justin Evans, one member of the Planning Commission, is not here this evening due to work commitments as Mountjoy Township Manager. So, moving on to the agenda, do I have a motion regarding the minutes of the March 21st meeting as presented in your packet?
I'll make a motion that we consider approval of the Planning Commission meeting minutes from March 21st, 2023, as presented in our packet this evening.
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second from Tiffany. Any corrections, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. As noted on the agenda, there are no zoning hearings scheduled this month. The borough engineer is here. Proposed is the demolition application from the Lancaster County Land Bank for the properties located at 154 and 155 South 5th Street. I would note that these are properties that were fire damaged. I think it was July of last year. And I'm not sure who is here from. Is this Sean?
Yes.
Okay, Sean.
For those who don't know me, I'm Sean Crump, I'm the program coordinator for the Lancaster County Land Bank. So as was just mentioned, we are proposing to demolish obviously these severely fire damaged properties. And we have put together very preliminary plans for new construction on the site. Obviously these plans are not definite or anything. We were considering subdividing further into 4 parcels total for what is 3 right now. But obviously any of that can change at this point. But they were the most responsive, they offer the most reasonable rate for the demolition, and we feel that due to their responsiveness, their ability, they got in connection with everyone for removal of the existing utilities. We thought they would be great for the project. And again, here are the conceptual site plans. Again, nothing is definite. This is just proposed and based on the existing space, obviously changed. This is just to show that we are planning new construction on the site after this demolition.
So based on that concept there, you would be putting, is that Church Alley in the back
is, yes.
there? So that you would be placing 2 housing units facing Church and 2 housing units facing 5th Street.
Yes, so
that's
the
what I'm
same,
seeing there.
yeah, the same areas where 154 and 156 currently exist. We're also proposing those 2 fronting Church Street as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
then
nice
that parking.
concept, especially the parking in the middle, but they look like nice lots.
Who do you look at developing this at? Is this one?
We were going to put it up for bid. It was going to be another thing where we're not sure whether the land bank is going to hold it for the entire thing. Oftentimes, as you're aware, the land bank, when we perform these rehabs or new developments, we'll usually enter a development agreement. In this case, we're not sure whether we're going to do that or hold on to it ourselves for the extent of the development. But again,
Or a hazard in the neighborhood. Did I understand, or am I correct, that you had already been to HARB regarding?
we have,
Yes.
yes, because last week.
Yeah, they usually meet the day after us, but this month it's the day ahead of us, the week ahead of us. Does anyone have any questions for Sean regarding this proposal for demolition?
I have a question, not really about the demolition though. For your proposal, and I know it's up in the air, do you anticipate requesting any variances for whatever plan you come up with?
At this point, we don't. Again, if we believe it meets the square footage requirement and everything, but if we were to encounter that, that would obviously be something we deal with at that time. But right now, we don't.
I have one question.
Sure.
In regards to the parking, isn't that a bit of a tight squeeze if it's only 42 feet, and can you expand on that? Because the size of one parking is like 9 by 18, that's really a tight fit in there. I'm just asking because 8 cars seems like a lot, unless you're gonna be cutting the yard less.
Yeah, we did look at the requirement, and we were planning on having them angled so they could fit in a little bit better. Again, this is something that it's very preliminary with the parking as well. We were just proposing, whether we would have to cut the yards a little bit shorter, that's something that we would look at the time. Because we just thought it would be nice to have, all street
Oh, I think it's a
parking.
great idea to have it, and most people don't want big yards anyhow. But if you have kids, you do want a yard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Or a pet. But I'm just saying, it just seemed like it was a tight fit.
And I mean, yeah, we really thought about that because of the size of the lots after we acquired it. We realized, it's super deep. Like, obviously, the back you've seen how far it goes back, and we just thought this had a lot of potential for, a larger.
I like the concept, I think it's great.
Any further questions, comments for Sean?
Sean, do you have any anticipated date of, I know it's all conceptual at this point, it's not demolished yet, any conceptual date of
Homes. But that's basically immediately after everything's completed. We want it to be a cleared site that's also infilled, obviously, so depending on how long that takes, we would like to move forward as quickly as we can though, with that portion of it. I can't give you, depending on how long the demolition takes and everything, but we want to work pretty quickly on this.
And following demolition and backfill, would you, not knowing your time frame now, would you seed that or what would you do with that property? You would seed it, it wouldn't just be left a dirt pile.
Yeah, in the same way, the Habitat site will move down the road
Down
is
the road,
seeded
yeah.
as well. We
Right.
would do this similar thing as we did over there.
Anything else? Okay, at this point, if we have no further questions, I would be looking for a motion from Planning Commission for a recommendation to Borough Council to allow for the demolition of the properties located at 154 and 156 South Fifth Street. Tiffany, do I have a second?
I'll second,
And that was from Annette?
yes.
Okay, having the motions, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Sharon, when will that go on?
So this will go on the May 9th Borough Council agenda.
Okay, moving on. And I believe this is what Derek is here for, is regarding the Borough Council CDBG grant for the 200 block of Union Street. The CDBG meaning Community Development Block Grant funding.
Right, and I couldn't go 2 months without seeing you. You forgive me?
I forgive you.
All right, thanks. Well, I'm glad Sean's here. He knows a little bit about this project and what we are, what we've been trying to do out in this area of the borough. Sharon, I'm gonna cast up there. Oh. Okay, so to get everybody oriented correctly and just talk a little bit about the program, in the last couple of years here, I'm actually gonna zoom way out. So we have been focusing on this kind of lower section of the borough here, right off of Front Street. Oh no, casting the tab.
It doesn't like you there.
Hi.
Very
Let me
kind of,
disconnect and.
to kind of add to your commentary there.
Yes.
When I came on council in 2000, I think we did the 400 block of Union Street.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, we've been doing CDBG projects for over 30 years. I mean, a long time. We believe that, and this is just Jake and I talking, we didn't do extensive file research to make our full
Like I
application.
said, in 2000, I think we worked the 400 block. And
Yeah.
I think it was the idea we were working up Union Street.
Yeah, it's always, I mean, we always try to pick an area and kind of exhaust it. We did a lot of work north of Chestnut on 2nd Street there. You know, we did that whole 2nd Street area and Hopler. Then for a couple of years, we were focusing out on the South 8th Street portion. We did 3 phases of South 8th Street, and we did Cherry and Bethel and
6th
Blunston and,
Street.
yeah.
And
So,
are these still based on your census tracts within the borough, which are based on household income?
correct. They have to, the area of the borough needs more over that number need to qualify as low to moderate, and that makes the entire area. So it's an average.
And what do we have? How many census?
There are 4 census
I didn't know.
tracts in the
4.
borough. There are currently 3 out of the 4 are eligible. So the area that I just mentioned, the South 8th Street area, we did all of those projects with CDBG money, except for 1 or 2 that we did bond money. We used bond money for. That area is now no longer eligible. So that's kind of cool. But in the last few years, we've kind of changed our focus here, and we are about to embark on our 3rd project in a row in this area of the borough, and the project I bring to you tonight is project number 4. So project 1 was 2nd Street between Perry and Lawrence, and we included that entire Mill Street intersection that was just awful for, the drainage issues we had there. So during the phase 1, we fixed 2nd Street and that Mill Street intersection. Then we did Mill Street from Lawrence all the way to 4th Street. Now we're coming back this year, and we recently awarded the contract to Reamstown Excavating. They will be in the borough around July is what the schedule is looking like to start construction all the way to 2nd. We're going to pick up the entire Union Street, 2nd Street intersection, and including this ADA ramp across the street here. I'm going to drop my little dude down so you can see the street view. That's a pretty good look here. And actually what's kind of nice here is you see right here, I have a natural paving seam. So we're going to pick up this ramp, we're going to take care of this property, and our project this year is going to extend right to this utility pole and cut right across this line. So we'll have a nice endpoint, and really what our next goal is to move up the street.
So you'll pick up at that line.
Right here at this line is what we're proposing to apply for funding for. And I'm going to jump over to my photos because this street view imagery is from August of 2011. So it's a little bit worse these days. Yeah. So this is our same intersection.
Does that include sidewalks?
That is the main thing that we're looking at.
Oh, okay, not the road as much as the
The
sidewalk.
road, well, we definitely want to look at the road. So to kind of build on the introduction that Mary gave previously, we don't just pick these streets at random. We recognize there are plenty of streets in the borough that could use curb and sidewalk and street repaving. What we try to find is we try to keep with keep with that continuity. We really look for streets that by coming in and doing a streetscape, or, upgrading what they're looking for, is they have program goals. And really paving streets isn't number 1 on their priority list. That's kind of more of a borough activity. But making the sidewalks safer and more even, we look heavily at ADA improvements. So we're always picking streets that need ADA curb ramps. We're also looking at the existing sidewalks and are they slope too greatly? Are they heaved? Are they cracked up? So can you actually, can someone with a disability safely traverse this neighborhood? Those are all really good kind of points to hit when you're looking at these projects. So we traditionally don't pick streets that have good asphalt because kind of on the back end, we want to pave them anyway. So we look for streets that are due to be paved. This one meets the criteria. And as we evaluate the curb and sidewalk, we want to try to bring it all up to speed. Now, on this block, we have St. Peter's Church here on this side. Their curb and sidewalk is in fantastic condition. So we don't just want to rip up to rip up. This would be one that we would look to save as much curb and sidewalk. We'll evaluate it for our borough specifications. Does it have adequate curb height? Does the slope of the sidewalk meet current ADA compliance? Is, the service life reasonable? We want to look at that and say, all right, is that sidewalk going to last a while, or is it just about to crack up and fail? So we'll evaluate all of that when we do these projects. And on this street, because basically the layout of the street, we're not going to look to change that much. There is a section up near 3rd Street where the curb is like 1.5 feet tall. That's an area where we would say, all right, that elevation needs to change. So even though that curb's in pretty good shape, that's somewhere we would look to tear out and fix that elevation issue. Okay. But as long as it meets our elevation criteria, we're not looking to really change the look of the street. We're just looking to replace what's there and bring up stuff.
Isn't there a property up close to 3rd Street that has brick? Is there one
Was
there?
that just on the front?
That's on the
That's on 2nd Street.
Yeah.
That's on 2nd.
That's on 2nd.
Now, you only take that brick away and put the concrete.
Correct, and that's actually going to happen this year. We're going to handle that as part of the second to Union and Perry project because we have to get an ADA ramp in there. So, okay. But just kind of tore up the street. Again, this sidewalk's in really good shape. Well, we look to probably repair that crack, but otherwise there is no need to tear that up. Now this side, so. The streets had a number of utility trenches and cuts. We've all had this similar concrete. That section isn't terrible. Looking back across the street, you can see more of the street cracking down here in the bottom corner. Again, this curb and sidewalk is in pretty decent shape, so we'd be looking to try to preserve that. This is pretty bad. This is all spalling and falling apart. We always look for these tripping hazards. The sidewalk all along this section is settled behind the curb. So
You know who will be doing the contract work?
it will be out for bid. So we will, assuming that we can acquire the grant, C.S. Davidson will do the design work and we will put the project out for public bids.
Because right now we are at the stage of submitting for the grant.
Correct. At this point, nothing is set in stone. We have met as a staff. We've discussed it informally at council, and I know it was brought up informally here last month where we're just kind of going throughout the process here and making sure we have everyone's endorsement to pursue this project. I have submitted a notice of intent, which is the first process in doing the CDBG application, so that's that just gets the ball rolling. It gets Sean a chance to look at the project and make sure that it's compliant with their requirements and is eligible for funding. And once he gets back and says, yeah, it's eligible, you can proceed to the application, then we're going to go through, we'll have a public meeting, we'll do a council resolution. But before we did all of that, I wanted to speak with you all tonight. I do have a letter that I prepared that I would ask for your signature on if you endorse the project. And really at this point, just to finish out our little tour, this is the 3rd Street intersection. The 3rd Street intersection, you can see some of the patching that's in there. We also have 4 non-compliant ramps. They're at least there, but they're not compliant to current regs. So what we would do is we would go through the 3rd Street intersection repave all of that to clean seams on all the streets and fix all 4 of those ramps for this project.
And that'll include lines and paint?
Yep, crosswalks, and
Great.
now a lot of that stuff your public works crew will do. Anything that we can do reasonably in-house, we won't bid out and pay for contractors. So Jake will come back and paint those crosswalks when we're done. But that's a pretty heavily traveled intersection, so we'll get that all fixed up, not only for cars, but mainly for pedestrians.
So Derek, at that intersection, the scope of work there would be to include the area of the ADA ramps.
Correct.
That you would basically be going into 3rd Street and up onto Union Street as far as you had to.
Let me jump, yeah, so we
To
would.
catch the ADA ramps.
Correct. So our scope here is exactly that. I think a good maybe rule of thumb will probably be anywhere from 5 to 10 feet back from the current edge of the crosswalks.
Okay.
So that's because we'll have to make the ADA ramps work. So we'll tie in whatever curb and sidewalk we need to tie in to get all those grades right. And as far as the paving goes, we will go back to a reasonable spot. There's, you can kind of see here on this side,
Right.
you can almost see that line right there. We'll go right past that line and make a nice clean saw cut and do a joint there.
Okay.
So wherever it makes sense to kind of tie those jobs together. But that'll all be in final design, which would occur sometime later this year, provided the boroughs award the grant and council authorizes the work to begin.
I have a dumb question.
There's no dumb question there.
So when you're doing your work,
Mhm.
there won't be any, gas lines put in, like, those meters in front of.
No,
This has
no,
nothing to do with,
what we would do here, that would not be in our scope of
I
work.
realize
Yeah.
that, but it wouldn't be done while you're doing that.
No, so that might be the only thing that could cause, I'm pretty sure we're in good shape here. I'm almost positive we talked to Columbia Water and make sure, we'll talk to LASA. LASA usually doesn't have anything to do. We'll make sure that all of the utilities in the road are in good shape, and that they don't have any work that they could see happening in the next 10 years. And the thing that we can't avoid and what we continue to struggle with is its residents connecting and disconnecting from gas. So the gas main may be in fantastic shape, but if somebody, gas is not required. It's not like a water service or a sewer service. So if somebody on this street calls and says, I want a gas service put in, the only way to do that is to cut the street and run a gas service. Now, we've been resistant to permit that type of work. And one of the other reasons that we're out here talking about this project now, we want this to be public. Like, it's not a secret that we want to do this project. If you live along this section of Union Street and you're thinking about getting gas service, or any of you that live on 2nd Street between Union and Perry, if you're considering gas service, please do it now. Because in a year, we're gonna fight you on that street cut permit. And that's the whole reason we adopted that street degradation ordinance last year.
I can recall on council, there were several that we turned down, we did not allow, because the road was only so many years old and it was not an emergency situation. An emergency is one thing.
Correct.
We had 2 down in the middle. What the prices?
Question. What is the process of, when you started this whole conversation, the way that you pick the location is based on the income of the residents that were there? What's the process of finding out what their income is?
So it's all U.S. Census Bureau data. We don't look at like each individual house. It's as a collective in an area, not just on this block. If we could do an area of the borough and saying, okay, any project in this area that meets the program criteria automatically qualifies. So if we meet one of the 4 program goals of CDBG and it's in low to moderate income, we qualify. But as far as the selection goes, we have done roadway management plans in the past. We've done street assessments to understand, what streets are, in good shape, what streets are in bad shape. And I can tell you when we embarked on the 2nd Street project now, probably 4 years ago, we kind of targeted this area as, okay, here's an area of the borough that hasn't seen a lot of work in a while, and we could, we could set them up, like here we are, this is our 4th project in a row, and we saw that unfolding 5 years ago when we were, looking at this. We could go here, and we could go here, and we could go here, and then we have a really nice
It's great to have.
corridor.
And these projects with CDBG are full base reconstruction. It's not like our crew's going in doing a mill and overlay.
So the CDBG does not dictate what the road treatment is. That's usually my recommendation. This road likely will be a mill and overlay.
Oh, okay.
So while it is something, again, the borough crew has in the past, they'll bring in a milling machine, they'll fit out a milling machine, and then they'll pave the road themselves. How we've done these is traditionally, if the curb and sidewalk is being replaced,
Right.
we've always bid out the curb and sidewalk work, okay? So that work is typically bid out, and these CDBG projects go as a whole. It's one collective project. While the CDBG folks aren't necessarily excited about funding just paving, it also could probably cause a little pause if I say, hey, we're just doing the curb and sidewalk and we'll get to the street later. So we've always packaged these projects together as one piece. It's also beneficial, I think, when you're working with brand new curb grades. You're relying on a contractor to do that pavement restoration along the curb lines. They have some responsibility to make everything work. So we might save a little bit of money by breaking the project up in the long run, but then you kind of have it was your job to pave, you mess the curb pavements up, well, you mess the street paving. So it's usually just better to do these all at once.
Derek, I have a question for you. When you're picking an area of the borough, you're picking it based on the need and based on the Census Bureau's low income.
So we start with the Census Bureau. We always start there. So, okay, is it eligible? Is it? Yes. Okay, then we traditionally look at the street's need, and we kind of start with the asphalt and then look out towards the ADA and the sidewalk. We might find this street really needs to be paved. Boy, the curb and sidewalk's in really good shape, not a really good CDBG. We especially like in this past one we're doing this year, if you've been on that section second between Union and Ferry, I mean, that sidewalk is all over the place. That one was very clear cut. So those are the kind of candidates we're looking for. But similar to kind of what I said before, we also want to look and make sure that it's feasible to pave them and that the utilities are clear.
Okay. My second question is, how does it work in a more affluent area? Where in the Census Bureau, it's not low to moderate income, but it's moderate to higher income.
So again,
But you have a need.
well, if you have a need, unfortunately, the CDBG won't cover it. Yeah, I mean, it's ineligible, it's not in a low to moderate area. Yep. This, the whole purpose of the funding is for low to moderate. So, yeah, if it's mid to high, then we would maybe look for those residents to try to, so, yeah.
Good luck with that.
Something like that would fall. In that instance, in most cases, the curb and sidewalk would be on the resident.
Correct.
And
Residents of the curb and sidewalk.
the residents own the curb and sidewalk, but the borough would be the responsible party for the paving and the maintenance of the street itself. And like with 462, when that was done, and all those new curbs and sidewalks were put in there, the individual, and tell me if this is going back there, Kelly, that the individual property owners were responsible for the curbs and sidewalks. The borough contracted for those and billed the residents.
Correct.
And that's how that project was done. But the curbs and sidewalk, unless it's a CDBG project similar like this, the individual residents are responsible for their end. And I know that borough has a number of streets that they're doing basically mills and overlays on this year. So, okay. Any more questions of Derek? Did anyone in the audience have any questions regarding this? Okay, hearing none, do I have a recommendation to Borough Council for the 200 block of Union Street?
I would like to make a motion that we approve, that we approve being in favor of, I don't know where that we say that we're in support
Yeah.
to Borough Council for the 2023 CDBG application of this project.
Okay, do I have a second? That was Tiffany.
Also,
I have a second from Kelly. And that is to recommend to Borough Council the submission of the 2023 CDBG grant for the 200 block of Union Street. Any further comments, discussions?
We need a unanimous vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion
Pretty
carries.
much.
Ah, Jerry.
We went all in on us.
I would just like to thank Derek
Yeah.
for his consistent and persistent hard work for this project.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you very much.
To all of the residents on Union Street, I apologize for taking photos of your vehicles and houses earlier. I'm just doing my job. So, I spoke with quite a few before I got here tonight. If any of you see me on your surveillance camera, black hood on.
Yeah, that's
That's what it was about.
I just found what I was looking for in the last, council packet was Jake's, report for March.
Mhm.
And that this year they are looking at doing the 900 block of Mifflin, South 10th Street, Houston Ridge, Chestnut Street, 1200 block, Avenue W, 1200 block, 800 block of Chestnut, 1100 block of Locust, 900 block of Lumsden, 600 block of Poplar, and 1000 block of Walnut Street. Those are the projects. All we have you here. Is there any word on when 462 is going to be repaired? Is that a total mill and overlay they're supposed to do?
I would imagine, absolutely.
Mary, I reached out
Anything even from Locust Street that they already feel that
I
they
mean, that's our
completed is
that's our issue.
horrible.
We have issued street cut permits for anywhere that they're on Borough Street. But anything within that 462 right of way, we have no jurisdiction over. That is a state route that is being inspected by PennDOT, and it is being administered through the PennDOT highway occupancy permit process.
I do have somewhat of an answer to that. My car has taken a beating, as all of our cars have, and I have reached out to PennDOT. And the answer back from PennDOT is, can you please send us photos? I'm more than happy to send them photos. This was at the end of the winter when the road was completely torn up and they had the metal grates with the big things coming up out of the ground. They actually were appalled. They reached out to the third party that UGI hooked up with, and they really gave it to them and told them that those plates need to be removed. Each and every night they need to be removed, it needs to be filled, and the road needs to be cleaned up, and they need to speed up. They ran into a much larger problem than what they anticipated when they opened up the ground, and it's taking a lot longer. They said it would be done by the beginning of spring. Spring has sprung, it's not done, it's not nearly done. I reached out to Representative Miller. Representative Miller said that I'm not the only one that he has spoken with, but Mayor Woods has also made umpteen calls to PennDOT and to him, and that his hands are tied. Their project is taking much, much longer than they thought it would, but they're hoping to wrap it up. He said that he will stay on top of it, and that roadway will be perfect when it's done. He said he will not stand for anything that's short of perfect. It will be paved perfect.
And the problem comes when the next cut comes. They gotta make sure that they're finished off right, because even the finished cuts, I mean, well, I know some of you are temporary, the finished cuts are hard.
Yeah.
I don't even know anymore.
Yes, no,
We're officially into paving season because April 15th is the earliest that you can place a top coat of wearing course on a PennDOT road or do it on a borough road using PennDOT liquid fueled money. So as of this week, pavers are approved to rip as long as they have temperatures, which has been pretty nice.
I would assume we're thinking spring, and the next 60 days the road will be done.
I would hope so.
So we do have control over 12th, 13th, 14th, Barber, for now, we have control over that.
Yep. So Brad, I'm happy to tell you that.
I knew you did, I just didn't know if you might have had, thank you for your input there. Okay, moving on the agenda, next on the agenda is the discussion items, land bank update, and it's smaller. It's smaller.
Smaller. Well, we can get that spreadsheet a little bit larger, right, Sean? Just the font to maybe go up to from, I don't know if it's at 9, maybe we'll get it at 12. But we do have good word, Habitat for Humanity, the project's been recorded at the County Recorder of Deeds office, and a building permit has been issued, construction has started.
Good.
We have a pre-construction meeting on Tuesday.
Yes.
May 1st.
I just got an update today too regarding that the initial part obviously will be done by professionals. But as far as anyone in the community that would like to help or volunteer, there's a women build from August 2nd to the 5th, just for women only. And they're gonna be the first volunteers. And then after that, other residents are welcome to volunteer. So if you're interested, just go online and you have to do a little training and sign a paper.
I'm happy to pass my information on for anybody who is interested in volunteering to work for Habitat. I'm also on the agenda in a little bit.
Yes, Nathan's on the agenda. Is there any way that information is being put out there on any site as to when volunteers?
We just had a conversation about that this morning, actually, about posting an update on the site as far as when construction is starting, and also having some internal conversations about getting some information out about when volunteers can participate. I'm working.
You're gonna have to talk louder because we can't, I can't.
I hear this all the time.
Sorry.
So we just had a
Hey,
conversation.
you can come up.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. We actually just had a conversation this morning about posting something on the site itself about when construction is going to be starting, and we're in talks, I'm in talks with Amy Dawes here, who's our Director of Development and Communication, about how we can get word out to the Covington community. We've already started. I'm also on board for Advance Across the Street Dream Center team, and I've been talking to them about maybe having a collaborative event where we kind of swap volunteers around. So it's definitely, now that we have a firm construction team, we're really ramping up the communication side and trying to get community involved in that answer it.
Yes, it does. And you might as well just stay there. If you would. There's some information for you. What I have here is the bylaws for the Planning Commission. There is a copy of the municipality's planning code, which is what steers us, and also the borough's subdivision and land development plan. The reason for the bylaws is it kind of outlines in there what the alternate's position is within the planning commission and municipalities and planning code, the MPC. That's what gives us the authority to have an alternate. We're allowed up to 3 alternates on our board. And I must tell you, one of the things that helped us up and actually got things moving was your application. Several years ago, the borough was supposed to adopt a resolution or an ordinance change that would have allowed alternates on the planning commission, and somehow it did not happen. So just within the last month, that change was made within the borough ordinance to allow us to appoint alternates to the planning commission. So, do you have any questions of us?
I don't. I think the only question I have is more of an affirmation. So as an alternate, it's my understanding that, I mean, I plan to probably come to every meeting that I can, but if you have a vacancy, essentially that's when I would step in as an official member.
You would step in as an official member if we were not to have a quorum available. Okay? Now, and if at that point, if we were to step in and sit as a voting member of planning commission, and we were to have presented a project to us, and you would be voting on that project as a member of the planning commission, as long as that project were moving through planning commission, you would be voting and you would be reviewing that project. It's not like somebody comes back in who wasn't there, who didn't hear the initial, am I right? To see it through. So, the other thing with having an alternate, at this time, if we were to lose somebody on planning commission, then we're out there saying, please, somebody, we're looking for members.
Right.
And if we have, we'd love to have 3 alternates, to have a pool of alternates, but at that point, we would be able to look at an alternate and say, this person's been there, they know what we're doing. We could request council, if the members of planning see fit, to have that person moved into a permanent planning commission position. So, it explains it a little bit here in the bylaws, that's why I grabbed them for you. And also within the municipality's planning code, it explains kind of what I've given you a thumbnail of the alternate position on planning commission. And I would ask you then, knowing that is how it works, are you still interested in an appointment as an alternate?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm a little bit new. I just went to Columbia. My family and I have been looking for about a year and a half. And I've been looking for ways to get involved within the community. I live over on the 200th block of Perry Street over here. Chesapeake Night. So, and I'm a nerd and I love the land development, and especially stuff that targets more low-income areas like you're doing with CDBG, flyover for habitat. This felt like a natural fit to what I already am passionate about. So yes, I'm definitely interested.
Okay, well, I thank you for coming forward with this, and it's not that we weren't ignoring your application, we just had to get some things straightened out here in the borough before I could really respond to you. We've been emailing back and forth a little bit here, so. Yes. Do any members of the board have any comments, questions?
Welcome to the borough.
We appreciate that you are already involved and projects that you have.
Nice having you.
And I think you're bringing good background to us. And I also feel that even if you're not a voting member, you've got input that you can, and insight that you could provide to the board. And with that, I will ask for since it is so worded here, to consider a recommendation of the Borough Council to appoint Nathan Roach as an alternate to the Columbia Borough Planning Commission. Do I have such a motion?
I'll make a motion then.
Okay, I have a motion from Brad. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And is that Annette?
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, Nathan, we will have this on a Borough Council agenda under personnel. And I'm not sure the date, once I find out, I'll give you an email. And if you would care to start out with paperwork. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you, Nathan, again. Okay. There is, I believe I forwarded the email regarding the webinar on transportation. And I'm not sure if anyone plans on attending that. I thought I ran a copy of it off, but I did not. And that's something that there's no charge for that down at the Planning Commission. So just to attend that. The other thing is, I don't know if you all received information about the Places 2040 Planning Leadership Awards celebration scheduled for Tuesday, May 9th at Manheim Township Public Library. Now that is an RSVP, and I haven't RSVP'd for that yet. I don't know what my plans are, so if you have not received that information, I will forward that to you also, if anybody needs that. Okay? Any other items for discussion? Was there anything that you came in particular to discuss?
Just wanted to see.
Okay, I just don't like to ignore when people come, if they have something they wanted to ask or say.
No, normally we come for Borough Council meetings, so this was very refreshing. It's a nice change. Very good.
All right, well, thank you for attending. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, motion from Tiffany. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, it's the next.
It's a net. Yeah, I've got all the women that Thursday, May 18th. The election day is the 16th. This is a polling place, so we cannot meet on the 16th. Thursday, May 18th. Okay, all in favor of adjourn? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, all.